Good evening. Or, sorry, I keep doing that. It's morning. It's about 10:30 here on a rainy, stormy, or it's supposed to be very stormy Friday here in Midcoast, Maine. So, yeah, hope everyone's doing well. This is Jason Dean at Film Fanatic, and up here doing another video here at the Film Fanatic Quantum headquarters. Hope everyone is doing good. Um, Thanks to people, the folks that came out yesterday. We did a quantum show at Lulu's, and it was pretty chaotic because of the weather. It was, like I've said before, this summer has been really great for gigs and getting, you know, a good amount of work for various shows. And about 99% of the shows that are, kind of going on here are like outside, basically. And that's always a factor. I had a conversation with a friend the other day, my friend Nikki, about, we were talking about how, in the past few years, or just in general, there's, there's always a lot of gigs outside, and generally there's like a mixture of a lot of indoor gigs, and there's like, and obviously we live in a real seasonal place here. So during the summer, there's all kinds of outdoor activities, and there's music festivals. They have there's about about three different places that I can think of that do music outside in Belfast, like Belfast Summer Nights. They do like the summer solstice in Rockland. There's and a bunch of the brew pubs and various other clubs do things outside during the summer. And there's the obvious summer. There's tons of like music festivals that go on, and thankfully a lot of those have been back this year. So so it's always been a thing, and I've always like you know being a musician here in Mid Coast, I do what I can and hopefully do gigs that I feel interested in, that I want to do. Hopefully they pay well and they're challenging and it's fun. The bottom line is it usually needs to be fun and worth your while, because it's a lot of work. Doing what we musicians do here, not only in the mid coast area, like a real summer. It's vacation land, so it's totally everything is all dependent on the weather a lot of the times, but then tourists. So we have like a 3 or 4 month period here in mid coast Maine where we get this massive influx of people, and that helps everybody. That keeps everybody employed. So, and then it usually kind of dwindles down. So it's always a big factor for us. And I've always thought it was okay to play outside. I never had problems or issues with it. And I know a few musician friends that really don't like playing outside. They've always had issues with it. They like playing inside because of various things with the sound, the acoustics. A lot of the times the sound isn't great, and then you got to deal with the elements sometimes, because we live right next to the ocean. The temperatures drop drastically. There's all these weather patterns that are really erratic. We get these storms that kind of appear out of nowhere. So it's a little bit more chaotic as far as playing outside. I think here, obviously because of the climate and the geography of where we live. But I've always, I've always liked playing outside. And I noticed, I was talking to my friend Nikki last week about that, and I can't really think of any gig that I've done, especially this year, and also last year, but especially this year, that has been inside. Every gig has been outside, pretty much, and that's and I didn't realize that until I was like talking to her about that, and I couldn't really think of the last time I had a gig that was like necessarily inside, one or two maybe, but everything has been outside. So yeah, I don't have a problem with it. Like, well, for instance, for Quantum, that luckily we've been really busy this summer, and we've every gig we've done has been outside. So, and the same thing with last year, and this year's been, I feel, has been a little bit more busy. So every gig we do, or that we've done, and even the gigs that I know that we have coming up are all outside. So, and it's been great. But also, and luckily the weather has been pretty cooperative for the most part. We had one cancellation, so it hasn't been so bad. But like today, I was supposed to have a show with Electric Bonfire, and I'm always a stickler about, I hate having to cancel shows, and if the weather is an issue, I am kind of, well, not really practical about it or pragmatic, but I tend to like push it and push it and push it to see if the weather will change, and not wanting to cancel the gig at all, like letting it ride as far as we can before we make that call. So, I have other friends that play music, and they, the minute that there's a hinting that there's going to be bad weather, they'll cancel. But I try to go the other way. But so like yesterday we played a gig. We had a Quantum gig, and it was a beautiful day when we got there and we set up. And I don't even really, I make the mistake of not really looking at the forecast because, well, on one point, on one side of things, like the weather has been really, really nice up here for the summer season. But also just because of how unbelievably unpredictable the weather is, I just kind of throw my hands up, and I don't really, I don't really uh, think about it. I just try to do it. If there's a gig on the docket, I just try to worry about that, and try to adapt to whatever's going to happen because those things are obviously out of our control. But we had a Quantum show yesterday at Lulu's, and we were supposed to play from 3 to 6. It's a 3-hour gig, and we usually play it at the other gigs that we've had there have been at 2. So we changed the times, and about 20 minutes into it, Mike Whitehead, my great friend who plays bass in Quantum, he's a sailor, and he has a certain kind of app on his phone that is a really, really accurate reader of the forecast, and it's always spot on. So he had turned to me and said, "Hey, I think we might be getting a storm." And I was like, "Really?" And it was like a beautiful sunny day, and we played for about maybe a half hour or so, and all of a sudden, all these black clouds moved in, and it started downpouring. It started raining slowly, and then at that point, we decided to stop, and we have a couple of really great tarps, big tarps. I have a big tarp that I always keep in my car just in case. And the venue where we play at Lulu's is great because at least it's outside, but we have these giant kind of umbrellas that are huge. So we were able, and it's just two of us, so we were able to fit right underneath it. And so the minute it started to rain, we just stopped, and then pulled the stuff in that we needed to, some of the speakers, and it was raining pretty hard for quite a while. And at that point, the people that were there was, excuse me, a lot of people that were kind of showing up at one point, and then the ice cream place was open, and so then everybody, kind of hung out, and then most people all left, and it rained pretty hard, and then we just covered everything up, took a break, and we were waiting around for, I don't know, half hour, 35 minutes, and then it cleared, and then we just pulled everything back out, and we started playing again, and slowly people, started trickling back, and like your second or third wave of customers, and then we ended up, playing the set, and ended up being, great, and it was fine, and nothing got damaged. And so, but that's one thing that I try to do is we play a gig over in June for the summer solstice, and that happened to us where it rained off and on. It was a 2 hour set, and it rained off and on for, the whole time, and it was kind of a pain. But we would play a few songs, and then literally have to take a break, cover everything up with our giant tarps, and then sit in an alleyway trying to get out of the rain. And that went on for about 2 hours. But we somehow persevered, and we played, and it was, it was still fine when we did play, and it was, I was glad we did that so we didn't, have to cancel. But like we had a show today scheduled for Electric Bonfire, and the venue doesn't have an indoor option, uh, so the gig had to get canceled. And today it's supposed to be later on today. We're supposed to get some major thunderstorms, and that band has a lot of gear and it's a lot of setup time. So it was canceled due to those reasons. But I'm always a person that tries to let's just wait, let's give it more time, and let's see what we can do. Maybe we can play a stripped down version. But that's just how I am, and most people are not that way, because I don't really think of the safety factors that are needed, and you know, equipment getting damaged or blah blah blah. So even though that is, a major concern, and I don't want that, and or for the people that I'm involved with, but I'm a kind of a hardcore stickler when it comes to that. But it is what it is. So, but tomorrow, or actually on Sunday, we have our next quantum show, and the forecast from what I know is supposed to be pretty nice that day. Fingers crossed. But we'll be playing at this festival that AC Davis, who I mentioned in the last video. He's a really great musician. He's from Austin, Texas. He's been here for a few years here in Maine, and he's doing this festival that's going to be in Owl's Head, and it's going to be an all-day thing from like 1. It starts at like 1 and it goes to like 7 or 8, and we're going to probably be the last band. We're going to do a quantum set there, and we'll be coming from another gig with a different band, so we'll just have to load in, and there'll be a PA and everything there, so we'll save some time. So looking forward to that. We had been asked to do it before, and we weren't able to do it because of scheduling problems. So yeah, that will be the next gig, and it's a private event, but people involved with the festival are allowed to invite people. So yeah, if anybody has any questions or anything or about it, let me know, and you can probably come by and check it out. And there'll be a food truck, barbecue, and then there'll be midday. I think there's going to be like an open mic kind of scenario where there's going to be a bunch of people just kind of jamming and playing music, and then there's going to be the bands during the day and at night, and we'll be playing. So it should be fun. Looking forward to it. But that's the next quantum show. So yeah, so this next video was a video that I was trying to do a while back, and things came up and I wasn't able to do it. And so I was really another video and another live review of a movie that I really love, that I have been kind of chomping at the bit to get to. So this movie here is one of the greatest horror exploitation movies ever. It's called Pieces. I got this on Blu-ray probably about 4 or 5 months ago. I bought this at the place I always talk about, Boom Moose Music. And I got it in the Bangor Boom Moose Music, which I don't usually buy movies there. They have a pretty good selection. It used to be really, really good, and for whatever reason, it seems like it's a lot smaller. But they have a pretty decent selection. It's pretty small. They only have like one area where they kind of specialize, in these kinds of films. And yeah, Pieces. It came out in 1983. It was directed by Juan Piquer Simon, who's a Spanish director. And it stars Christopher George, Paul Smith, Edmund Pardom, and Linda Day. And this movie is definitely one of the ultimate. It's like, as far as like the horror exploitation, in a movie that's in the horror exploitation world, like this is one of the ultimate movies, and it's also like a slasher movie, and it's super gritty. It's super raw. It's very sleazy. It's like super sleazy. There's a lot of like, gratuitous violence and sex, and it's super raw. It's pretty nasty, and it's basically centered on this guy who's like the psychopath, and he goes around with a chainsaw, and he basically goes to this like college town, and he just massacres all of these people and all these women, and it's pretty graphic. And I got this edition at Bull Moose, like I said, and it's pretty amazing. It's got 3 discs, 3 discs in it. The packaging is super, super cool. I mean, great artwork, and I believe it's all the original artwork, and it's got the slipcover here, which is pretty sweet, and it's got hours. It's got hours and hours of special features. There's 2 versions of this film on this disc. There's the American version, beautiful, beautiful packaging, and it was not that expensive. I got it for like, I think, $20. But there's 2 versions of the film on the disc, and there's an American version and then a Spanish film, because the director is Spanish, and there was like two different versions of it. The movie, like I said, was directed by Juan Piquer Simon, and he's a Spanish director who went on to become, pretty well known exploitation director, in that time. And this came out, if you notice a pattern after checking out some of these videos, or if you do, virtually every movie I've been talking about has all been from either in the late 70s or early 80s, and it's something I always talk about. I feel like my favorite period of filmmaking is the 70s and 80s, and particularly when it's related to this genre of filmmaking. It was just a golden period where there was just so many great of these underground films coming out left and right. They all came out, they were all shown during the time of the Grindhouse Cinema. They were all shown in like drive-in movie theaters, and also, Grindhouse theaters, movie theaters, and they were all shown, like, you probably, back in the day of when this film came out, you, like, say you lived in New York in the 80s and you were going to 42nd Street, you would probably see this and pay a ticket, probably like $3 or whatever it was back then, and you'd see this, but you'd also see like 4 other movies along with that. So you'd be basically spending the entire day or most of your evening or night in that cinema, and you just see one after another, and it would usually be, doubled or billed with like a zombie movie, or some kind of Italian giallo movie, or some weird exploitation movie that was done in America, or some strange like foreign film. And it was a rare time, and you would pay the price, and you would have that whole like kind of grindhouse experience of where they would just grind out all these movies, and you pay virtually nothing to see all of these movies. And they'd have their runs. They would make, they would be in the theater for maybe a month or a few weeks, and they would make, a lot of money for back then, and even probably by today's standards, it was quite a bit. But after the films were, taken out of the circulation of, like, say, that particular theater or whatnot, the films kind of went into obscurity, and you wouldn't really see them anymore. And then fast forward into the mid to late 80s, that's when, Beta and VHS, especially VHS, emerged. And suddenly, these films were available at like your local video store, and you would go in, like experiences that I had when I was a kid. I would, go into the local video store, as a kid with my family or whatever, and I would always go straight to the horror section, and they would have all these movies, and it would always be a thing of picking out the movies that had the most grotesque or the scariest covers, or the most horrific artwork, and this was always one of them. And I remember seeing this a few times on VHS, but again, it had been it's been forever since I've seen this, and I've never seen it in this kind of packaging, and it's yeah, it's like one of the ultimate slasher exploitation movies. It's obviously like a knockoff to a degree of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, even though it's a totally different vibe. It's a totally different. It's onto itself, but it's obviously a ripoff of that. But it's fantastic. The kills are amazing. There's a scene in it in particular where the killer in the movie uh, attacks and massacres this girl who is on a waterbed, and it's all the way the way that scene is shot is, I think, one of the most amazing scenes I've ever seen, because it's all slow motion, and when he's like cutting her or cutting at her with the chainsaw or the knife that he has, I should say he has a knife. The the waterbed gets cut, and there's like blood and water spraying everywhere, and then the other thing that's amazing about the scene is that it's all slow motion, and it's amazing. Like it's actually, from a cinematic standpoint, it's like just a gorgeous shot, even though it's like completely horrific and terrifying. It's pretty amazing, and it's like, I think it's got some scenes in this film where I feel like it really has this like high end quality to it, even though it's like super trashy and super sleazy. It has these aspects of it that are like kind of almost art house, like European art house. And again, it is a European Spanish director, so it does have that flair. And the story is actually pretty good, and the suspense, and it's pretty good. Like the investigation where these cops are trying to find out who this serial killer is actually pretty good. It's actually pretty well done. It's got an amazing ending too. The ending is super amazing and just wild, and it's just a great payoff. But fantastic movie, Pieces. And again, this packaging is definitely one of the best I've seen. I was super excited when I bought it, and I've watched it a few times. And I did a review for this film. Yeah, it was quite a few months ago after I bought it, and I had been wanting to do a video for this movie for a while. So yeah, this is a killer movie, and I think this is a movie too. If a person is like, say, kind of new to, I mean, everybody kind of grew up with being exposed to a lot of these movies, but certain generations, older generations, probably haven't. Like in my case, um, but I feel like if you're looking to get, if you're a fan of like, say, new horror films, and you're looking to like dive deep into the bin, and you haven't really, say, explored the stuff that's that's kind of considered in this kind of more sleazy kind of realm. I think this would be actually a really great, if you're a fan of like Friday 13th, or you're a fan of like say modern slasher films like Scream, for instance, but you want to like trace it back and go back, check out the old school stuff where a lot of those things came from, but you haven't really been exposed to this stuff. I really feel like this movie is actually a really good starting point to check out, because it's a little bit older than some of the other movies by a few years, but it's still all in that time period, and it's a really great old school horror film. And the kills are great, and it's super gritty, and it's super raw, very sleazy, like I said. But I think that this would be a really great like kind of introduction into these kinds of films if you dig them. So yeah, definitely check this out. This is Jason Dean here at Film Fanatic, and if you get a chance, check out the other videos we have, and there'll be more stuff coming up soon. So check out Pieces. An amazing film. Thank you. Have a great day.